Hi, I'm Stephanie Hamiter, and I'm here to talk to you about design thinking. Design thinking is just a way of thinking about the needs of your patrons and your library. Human centered design involves observation and development of a deep understanding of how people use a product and interact with it, and the role the product plays in their lives. So, this began as a business concept, then it moved over into the world of social justice, and now it's in the world of education. Um, how does that apply to our library, though? Well, you may not have a product that you're coming up with, but you may have a process, you may have a lesson, you may have a certain program that you want to start in your library. And so here are three things that you will need in order to use this process for designing your library programming. The first is optimism. The second is be willing to experiment. And the third is that you need to be willing to collaborate and seek ideas from experts who may or may not be on your campus. There are stages in design thinking. If you look over on the right in the Coleman article that I read, they laid out some stages for you. To understand and empathize is the first one. You may be talking with students, interviewing students or staff, could be staff, and you may see a pattern emerge of a need. So you're going to define the need and then brainstorm, how can I meet that need? Then you would build a prototype. Because we're not dealing with products most of the time, it's a process, it's a lesson plan, it's a floor plan, or a way to rearrange your furniture. So you're going to actually write it, build it, and then you need to test it and see what the feedback is from your patrons. And if you don't receive the feedback that you were hoping for, or if it's not exactly what you wanted, then if their need isn't fully met, then you're going to need to go back to the drawing board. You may need to define the need again because maybe you didn't get that quite right. Maybe you just need to brainstorm a few extra ideas. And in the end, you will have to do your prototype multiple times. In the Bowler article that I read, they really talked about how it's not a linear process. It's often messy way to generate innovation because it is such a trial and error way of thinking. Another thing that stood out to me from the Bowler article, though, was that they were surprised at the iterative process and they thought the prototype was the end. Well, that's not the end. You have to still keep testing to see if you were right on the money or not. How will I implement design thinking? I think I have been doing this without knowing that it had a name. So, the second semester of school, I opened up a makerspace in my library and I began to notice things very quickly. Students gave up easily. It's too hard. I don't know how. I want to switch stations. Those were some things I heard. And so, what I began to realize that they didn't understand the idea of iteration, just as the students in the Bowler article, and they didn't understand that they could make adjustments in a design project and that failure is part of the process. And so the question I came up with was, how can I teach perseverance in the makerspace? And so the last 2 weeks of school, I wanted to help teachers out, and I came up with I brainstormed a list of ideas, and I put most of them into motion for testing. I gave students a choice of stations and challenges at each station. I required them to remain at their station for the entire time, no switching. I allowed students to work together or alone. They had to explain their design and they had to give me an explanation of their design. And if they were able to do all of that, they earned a ticket for a drawing. I had other brainstorm ideas that I did not put into practice, but those are the ones that I actually used. And then I took it those last 2 weeks and tried it out. I did notice a huge improvement in the students' perseverance level. However, I still had some students ask to switch stations. They just really wanted that one and done experience. And I even had one student who looked at the Kiva planks and just could not come up with anything with just a rectangle and he just walked away. So I went back to the drawing board. I went back to the brainstorm phase. And at the beginning of school next year, this is my plan, or these are some other things I would like to put into a testing over the summer. I'm going to work on writing it out and building the test so that at the beginning of next year, I want to directly teach this design process. I want to look for curriculum over the summer. I want to collaborate with some other people and pull in some books into the library that I can make those connections between makerspace and library. Here are my references. Thanks for watching.